All right, good afternoon again. Welcome back, everyone. Also to the ones online watching. We have a few more speakers here this afternoon. They'll be making a few presentations. We have Glennis Smith, the director from the health center there. Guy Gosden will come up here. Terry had a few more things you wanted to add on. And also Charlie. Don't be shy to come in and sit down. You ones just standing around outside there. Was just waiting on Glennis here. There's some pretty good discussion here this morning with the ones that spoke, and we had a good lunch. Okay, we'll turn the mic here over to our elder here, Charlie Nelson. He'll say a few things here.
Good afternoon again. This is Charlie Nelson. Nin Mishakunegizik, Ninge Nibteguneb. I introduce myself, my name, my clan is Bishu. And I'm really proud of my family, to keep up this information happening, I mean, there's other families here too, sure, and that's really appreciate that. I appreciate, even if you have a strong voice, we appreciate your strong voice. I don't want to get beaten down. I want us to. I hear some of our people who are unemployed. We have many issues with alcohol and drugs, and fighting. And, I think we. Some of the words that I used to hear from our people, we have to love ourselves. We have to love each other. Sometimes we get beaten down, and we have to find some confidence someplace. And some of the rights of our people is eroding, and we need time to react to some of this erosion of our rights. And I like the way Uncle used to talk to me and talk to us. He used to say. We used to say it with strength and conviction. If you want something, we gotta say it so that people can hear us. And we need to say some things that where people can hear us. And there's a few areas of concern for me. Well, there's items in the treaty where we have concerns. Maybe there's the land. There's some promise of more land as our numbers increase, that we would have more land to the west. That's the commissioners. So that's our people asking. What is to happen when there's more of our people? and our numbers increase. And they said, well, we can access more land to the west. So those are the commissioner's words. But there's some other areas like health. There's some other areas like housing, or there's some other areas of, medicines, or, we're training our own people. And this is where I'm going to ask our health director to come up and just introducing some of this idea about health. There's a medicine chest clause in the treaty, and the way things are today, we have medical transport to transport our people, and I think there's a good reason for us to continue this medical transport, because our people are not even employed, to enough employment, or we're still in poverty level here, and so we need some kind of a support in that area. And then there's the medicine picking, the medicine training. We still need those areas, and so I'm going to ask Mr. Guy Gosselin to give us some overview of health and the services that we get. There's a treaty right to health, and maybe we could get some more knowledge and background. If we get denied, do we accept it? And I think we get beaten down, and we should get better at some of our needs. We need some things to help us. So I'm going to ask Mr. Guy Gosselin to come up and share a few words. Guy?
Thank you, Charlie, our elder and our friend and our coworker. And maybe I'll start giving a little bit of history about health, going back to 1998, because that's when I started. And Charlie was on council then with his brother Terry, and the chief was Chief Felix, and Martha, I think, was on council, and I can't remember the other person. But they had negotiated with Health Canada to transfer health services to the community level so the community could manage their health program, because the community knew best. They had done a community health plan, and they knew what their health needs was. And there was a number of programs in there, and there was some flexibility. And like back then, there was like traditional healing was a big program, and medical transportation, and nursing, and mental health. And so over the years, in 1999, we built the health center that we have, the original building. And then since then, we've added about, I would say, 8 capital projects. We've expanded the health center as programs came along, like Head Start and maternal child health, and Jordan's Principle, home care. There was no home care on reserve until 2001. I remember going to a conference, and Manitoba Health, they were talking about home care in the province, celebrating 25 years, and all the health directors were around saying, what are you talking about? We don't have home care. So we've been able to develop and grow a lot of programs over the years. And I'm very proud of our team at the GNU Wellness Center, and I think we offer many services from birth all the way to death, although we cannot provide long-term care because we don't have a nursing home, a PCH level 4 care. We don't offer that. Having said all that, there's a lot of gaps in services that Indigenous people on reserve don't qualify for. For an example, palliative care. In the province, they have a really good palliative care program. So, but on reserve, it's about half of what is eligible in the province. And another area is primary health care. Like that's a doctor or nurse practitioner that you can see. We managed to get one because we put in a proposal and we were able to get primary health care because we were able to put a business case together and present it to Southern Health and Health Canada. And we brought them both to the table and they both said, this is not our jurisdiction to provide primary health care on reserve. But because we had a business case and we could prove the burden of illness of our community, they decided to partner and share the salary of a nurse practitioner. But that is not the case for most First Nations community that have a health center, because Health Canada says if you're a health center, you don't qualify for primary health care. Southern Health, they say if you come to the hospital, if you come to emergency, we will look after you. But it's not our jurisdiction to come and provide doctor services on reserve. So those are areas that you have to continually challenge the system and present your case that the burden of illness, our population is greater than the communities next door to us that have 2 or 3 full-time doctors, and yet somehow we don't qualify. There's different areas. I've noticed since '98 how different programs are continuously being cut. And the latest one was traditional healing. We have a really big traditional healing program, and it's in non-insured health benefits. And early on, they cut it by half. We had like 90,000. They cut it down to 45. So we had 45 for many years. About 2 years ago, they decided to take the program out. And so I challenged them, actually, because you don't see it right away until then you notice, because you send your reports in and they say, well, actually, you can't report on that anymore because that program is no longer there. So I said, what's going on? Like, where was the consultation? Where was the, oh, we gave that program to MKO for MKO to deliver. So if you need traditional healing, you now have to apply at MKO. And that's like a Northern Tribal Council, and they're now responsible for traditional healing for the entire province. So that's just one example. Non-insured continuously gets cut, like dental. Let's say they get a referral from an orthodontist that the child needs braces, and they have all the recommendations, all the treatment plan. It's sent in. It's usually going to get rejected, denied. And most people, they just say, oh, it's denied. Some parents come to the wellness center and say, my treatment is denied. Well, then you phone Ottawa and you say, you know what? The specialist, the dentist, they recommend that. The child needs that. We're appealing this decision. Do you deny every case? Oh, no, no, no. We'll approve it. We'll approve it. But unless you, like Charlie says, challenge those denials, which a lot of people don't know that you can appeal that. Even for drugs, if you don't get them, let's say you go with a prescription and the pharmacist says this is not covered, you should tell the pharmacist, please appeal this, because my doctor prescribed me this medication, and that's what my doctor wants me to have. So the pharmacist can send an appeal to Ottawa, and the chances are it could get covered. I'm not saying it's going to get covered every time, but we should always use our appeal process when you get a denial, because that's sometimes, I can't say that's true for sure 100%, but I feel like a lot of times they just deny a service until it gets appealed, and then they approve it. Yeah, it's continuous work. I find my entire career in health has been to work on increasing benefits and challenging governments, either the provincial or the federal. Because if they say, oh, this is not my jurisdiction, this is not my, it is both their jurisdiction. I say it's not, you know, because the province is given money from the feds for all the tertiary care, the hospitals, cancer care, all the health care, ambulance. So they have a responsibility. They get the money for the entire population of Manitoba. So they're responsible. They shouldn't be left off the hook. And the feds should not be left off the hook anyway. So when they say, it's not my jurisdiction, it's not my jurisdiction, I'm saying it's both of your jurisdiction, you know. We're Manitoba citizens, we've got a Manitoba health card. We can access hospital, emergency, cancer care, palliative, all those services, home care, nursing homes, all those services. And but the governments like to play off one another, and then that's where the gaps happen, and that's where we need voices, like Charlie says, to challenge those gaps. And I want to also thank the government, the Chief and Council here. All over the years since 1998, they have entrusted health, and 100% of the health funding has been spent on health and health programs, and they have protected the health, and they have challenged the government whenever they needed to about our health services. And I think that is why we have such a strong health. And I see Mr. Ken Henry was the first chairman of the health board right since 1998 for a good 10, 15 years. So we've seen a lot of progress. We have a very good governance. A health committee oversees the entire health governance. And so in many ways, we are a leader in our health services. We have lots of visitors from the province and many other communities. We have a seniors lodge for our seniors. And just this year, our seniors lodge, well, since COVID, was recognized in Ottawa as a seniors lodge. We've had it since 2007, and it was never recognized until this year. So now, because of COVID and Betty Ann Scott, who helped us get the funding back in 2007, she was finally able to put us on a list. So now we can apply for special funding as a seniors housing and get extended hours on staff. That's another big gap when a lot of the funding is from 8:30 to 4:30 when we have needs on weekends and evenings. So we're trying to expand that now with this new funding. So yeah, it's a continuous challenge to keep working to have equivalent health services as all the other Manitobans. So thank you. I don't know if that's too long or...
No. Is there any questions for health? We could add some more after. One of the things that we did support under our traditional healer program was training, the training of our people to know medicines. and we need that somehow. I'm not sure what traditional healer program in MKO might do to help us expand on this idea of our health knowledge. I think one of the people that we interviewed, Elder, he said, I want to know some more medicine, I want to know. So if it's not here for us to apply for, I wish it was here. We could have supported some of this training to take place. So.
Yeah, I can add a bit on that. We're currently working, as you know, the health center, we continuously try to improve and grow and stuff. So we're currently working on a cultural center to be built on the Nawabadan site. And so we're just in the planning now, and we're saying, well, what should be in a cultural center? So we're planning to move the mental health team in there, and then we're applying for a harm reduction program, so that could be run out of there. But we also thought, like, culturally, what should we have? So there's a big NPR room. We would like a smudge room or something, but another room also, like a big room for teaching that will have a medicine room attached to it, where we can dry medicine, store medicines for that medicine picking program, and maybe even be teaching about picking medicine, and then another room attached the same way with all like leather and beads and stuff like that, that maybe a classroom from school can come there and have a class on how to make moccasins, and then all this that's being recorded, have a library with all the digital stuff. So in that room, have like a big screen TV that people can learn language and stuff like that. So,
All right, thank you there, Guy, for coming up here and speaking and sharing a little here with us. We're going to call Kerry up here again. He would like to add on to what he spoke of earlier.
Thank you. I just before I leave, I want to make sure that I'll come back in the morning. But I think one of the things I wanted to leave with people is that we will create a lot more reserve lands. And one of the things I want to make sure of is that people understand that we are going to create reserve lands that are family-oriented or certificates of possession. One of the things that is very clear from West Bank First Nation is that they created, they did a mall. They were doing a lot of, they had a lot of the Costco's, Walmart's, a lot of stuff that happened in there. They make their own money. That's the direction that we want to go in as a First Nation. And it's very clear in treaty, they said the outside promises I talked about, the outside promises of Treaty One was an angry issue with negotiators from the Pembina bands. We were called the Pembina bands because we're part of the Pembina band treaty, Red Lake, 1863 Red Lake and Pembina bands treaty. So we were called Pembina bands here before we became Roseau River. And it said, quote, they think that the government has undertaken to furnish them with first-class residence, clothes of a superior quality, and provisions of their own choice for them and their families. The Indians were so unhappy they almost accused the representatives of Canada of obtaining their consent under false pretense, end quote. That's from D.J. Hall, A Supreme Atmosphere, Treaty Number 1 Revisited, the Canadian Journal of Native Studies, page 331. So very clear message that what was promised to the Anishinaabe people at Treaty 1 was not fulfilled. It was basically they did get their consent or by essentially lying to the Anishinaabe people. So we have, like I said, we have under Treaty Land Entitlement, we are going to create new reservation lands inside the city of Winnipeg. And people sometimes don't believe that, but we are going to get it done, and it is going to happen. And I think pretty clear message that there is 1.3 million acres under the TLE system, TLE agreements that were signed in the province of Manitoba, and we're going to make sure that the 24,164 acres that we have in Roseau River under our TLE agreement and our 1903 surrender agreement, there is going to be creation of new reservation lands, and we're going to follow that West Bank model, because West Bank, I think, gets around close to around $50 million of their own source revenues. And one of the things that we got to do is legislate our own understanding of treaty. Can't wait for the government to come along and substantiate the treaty terms and conditions. We will do that ourselves, and we need to be able to legislate. But we're not sovereign as a result of treaty. We're sovereign as a result of our inherent right, and that it is just recognized in treaty that we were sovereign, and that's just like Asinian Inn said. That is what he left a message that said they will never allow the white man to come into the reservation, and that's because we said that on the reservation lands we would end up being able to govern ourselves. So I want to leave that message to you, that the people that are listening. We are sovereign as Anishinaabe people in our lands, and we don't have to ask for permission. We have that right. Miigwech.
All right, again, thank you, Terry. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow. I'll have a double-double. We have another speaker here. Come and do a little presentation. Glennis Smith. I'd like their caller to come up and speak a little.
Miigwech Billy, Pushu, Duemanagnak, Nigani Dimwe Betishnikas, Shigowagagi Puck Tishnikas, Mashkiko Giminigo Yawana Awen Wizniowen. Good afternoon, all my relatives. My colonial name is Glennis Smith. My traditional Anishinaabe name is First Woman Sitting. And also my Cree name, traditional name, is Forever Leaf. But I was asked to come, invited to speak. Terry had passed me Sema, which I'm holding right here, to speak on Bill C-92, an act respecting First Nations, Inuit and Métis, children, youth, and families. This became law effective January 1st, 2020. It applies to all of Canada and our children wherever they may be across Canada, and families and all CFS agencies. The shift of Bill C-92 is focused on prevention and early intervention. Where the focus also is to keep our children within our own communities, with their families, their relatives, their extended family, their home reserves. And it's to promote that reconnection that's been severed through children being placed off reserve that are not culturally appropriate. Presently, we have in the province of Manitoba, we have about 11,000 Indigenous children in care. And that's, if you think about it, you look at our own home community, we have 170 plus children that are currently in care. And the focus and the goal of Bill 92 is to rectify that major injustice of taking the children from our homes. And it's to promote cultural continuity. What that means is well-being of child, family, and Indigenous group, community, and population within your communities. Transmission of language, culture, cultural practices, ceremonies, traditions, and knowledge of our traditional teachings. That's missing with a lot of our children that are placed in non-Indigenous foster homes, group homes, what have you. And also the best interest of the child. And one of the key things of Bill C-92 is the Indigenous governing body. What that is the any CFS agency within the province of Manitoba or Saskatchewan, or any CFS agency that has one of our children in care. They're obligated to notify our people in regards to where our child is. And if there are significant things being done, say the child is being moved to another foster home, we have to receive notice of that because we need to know where our children are. We don't want what had happened to many children before, like the 60s scoop. That was very detrimental to our people because the connection to their families and their communities was severed brutally. And this is what this act is rectifying. And I'm working with, I have a advisory council. My advisory council consists of 8 members, 4 of which are elders, 2 males, 2 females, an adult and female representative, a youth, male and female representative. We are working diligently, but due to COVID, we weren't unable to have meetings. We did have 1 meeting so far, and we're proposing to have the 2nd meeting in October. But my responsibility is I'm the facilitator. I'm to help and guide this process, not only our advisor council, but the community at large. And that's one of the things that we'll be proposing to have probably in November, providing that all the COVID-19 directives prohibit us from meeting, is to introduce this program, create awareness and understanding in the hopes that our people will help and participate in this process, because many of us have been impacted and affected with a lot of our relatives being placed in care. I know I was, personally. I had 2 nephews that were scooped up in the 60s scoop. I never saw my relatives till they were in their 30s. Just recently, they did come home in the 90s. But that connection was severed. And we tried to reconnect, but they were acculturated into mainstream society in the United States and Pennsylvania. They were raised. So they didn't have that connection to their parents or to their relatives. And this is what we need to do for the current children in care from our community and for all Indigenous children that are in care across Canada. Because there are probably 90% of the children in care within this province are Indigenous. That's appalling. That's shocking. It upsets me because we're capable as an Indigenous people to look after our own, to take care of our own. We have many capable people within our own families to help us look after our children and grandchildren. I'm currently in the process of going through the process of reunification under kinship ties with my 2 youngest grandchildren. It is a long, arduous process. Under the provincial system, it's very difficult. And one of the major barriers is our current housing, or lack of housing. That is a major barrier that we face, not only in Roseau, but in many of our our Indigenous communities across Canada. We lack housing. How are we going to house our children? How are we going to bring them home when we don't have adequate housing? And that too has to change as well in terms of our housing. We have to take control of our own housing standards as well, because we have to take back what is rightfully ours in terms of our children, our youth, and our families. So this is what the primary focus of this act is the reunification of children that are in care, to bring them home. And just so you know, I just recently became employed as the community engagement liaison for Roseau River. My employer is Southern Chiefs Organization. It's a pilot project. And I was interviewed by Southern Chiefs Organization staff. That was how I was hired. I was hired in February of this year. And it's a short time, less than 7 months. But in that time, I had the guidance and assistance of Charlie. He's also on my advisory council. Gloria Littlejohn is also part of my advisory council. Leona Smith is also an elder. Peter Atkinson. They are the guiding principles, and they have that knowledge of traditional child rearing ways that many of us aren't familiar with. I know I was raised in those practices. You know, some of the things that are unacceptable under the provincial CFS system is our cradle boards. And yet, in the bonding of the mother and child, that's very sacred, because that connection is made upon birth of a child. And that's immediately severed under the birth alerts that were part of the process, and that was law. They were taking our children right as soon as they were born. They weren't even able to bond with their mother. So that's a really hard emotional severance of mother and child, because they're not able to create that bond. And when you create that bond with that child feels that security, that love. Those things were missing. Those are severed completely. You know, I could remember helping my mom raise my younger brothers and sisters. You know, swings were appropriate. Swings were the commonplace within my community, not under CFS law. That's why it's important that we as a community unite and build a CFS Act that is culturally appropriate, incorporating our language, our culture, our traditions, our ceremonies. And we have all of that. We do within the community. We have a massive amount of traditional knowledge within our community. And we have legal experts. We have Donis. She has her master's. She knows law. We have Guy over here who's looking at incorporating a family law part. Doing that, you know, and we could all work together, and collaboration is the important thing. We can't do it alone. We have to work together as a community for the betterment of this generation and subsequent generations thereafter. Because we need to heal and help our peoples. Because many of our peoples are still stuck in addictions. We know that. We see it. I see it every day. And we got to ask ourselves, why is that? You know, it's a result of many detrimental things that happened in our recent past. Residential schools is one of the primary detrimental, emotional, spiritual devastation to our people. You know, 60 Scoop is another. Racist laws, policies, and legislations are another. you know, trying to extinguish our rights as Indigenous people of this land. We are the original people of this land. We never gave up that right to our connection to Mother Earth. We agreed to share, but we didn't give up that right because our relationship is with Mother Earth. We had a perception that she's our mother, not a piece of property to be owned, you know, for the taking of her bounty, whether it be coal, gas, oil, minerals, gems. That wasn't our view. And within our treaties, we talked about our treaties this morning. Our treaties say 6 inches, nothing past that. You know, and you look at I heard this morning when I was listening to Terry and Donna's and Charlie speaking this morning. And yes, the interpretations of what we understood treaty to be was not incorporated in that treaty. The manipulation, because at the time of treaty signing, a lot of our ancestors didn't know English language. That's foreign to us. We spoke with our Ojibwe language. And yes, we did have treaties prior to contact, because we had alliances with many different Indigenous nations to live in peace and harmony with them. But that's what we need to do as a community, you know. And it begins, it's like that pebble you throw in a still pond. That first drop is you, you know, and the ripples is your family, your siblings, your extended family, and it goes on, and finally your community and your nation. I said a prayer before I came up here to speak, because I didn't want to offend anyone. You know, I grew up on this community. I suffered the same things, the many abuses. But I didn't allow that to make me bitter and hard. I understood that I needed healing, and I sought that healing. And I received my healing through the ceremonies, the traditional practices of my ancestors, and that connection with Mother Earth, the medicines we see here, you know. And that's why when I was offered this Sema, that's why I brought it up here with me, because it too is a medicine, you know. And I asked for ancestors to help me speak in a good way, not to offend anybody, not to hurt anyone, not to make anyone feel less than. We know how that feels as Indigenous people. We need to reconcile and make our lives better for generations yet to come. So we as a community, we can do that. We have many intelligent people. We have the Ugichida Society. We have the Nokomises within our community. You know, we have our elders. We have our children. We have our youth. You know, if we all work together to help our people, and not for show, you know, not for money, but to do it from the heart, because that's what Anishinaabe is, people of the heart. That's what I've been told. And that's what I believe. And that's why I try each and every day to be the best that I can be. Not for myself, but for generations yet to come. Because we have a saying, we call it Janae. If you do something intentionally to hurt someone, that may not come on back on you, but it'll come for generations to come. Maybe your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will suffer the mistake you made. And that's why they say it's important that you live in a good way for today. There's nothing we can do about the past, but what we can do is learn from it and not make those same mistakes over and over again. And we're going to look to the future to make our great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren's lives so much better. We've lived in our communities, and I'm not unique, not at all. There are many of our people that sit in here that are out there that have suffered many, many abuses. But we just have to forgive those ones that hurt us as children, as teenagers, as young women. You know? Because that's part of our own healing. And that's why this is important. This Bill C-92 is to bring home those children that want to come home. Like, I'm going to go spend a weekend with my grandchildren this weekend. That's the first time. My grandchildren have been in care since they were babies. They're now 5 and 6, but they know who I am because I took the time to go and see them all the time and visit them. So I never severed that connection with my grandchildren. But there are many children that are out there that don't have that connection. And that's the heartbreaking thing about it, that we need to rectify that as a family, as a community, as a nation. We can't forget them because one day they're going to look after us when we're old and can't look after ourselves. Because we say we have 2 childhoods. And we do. And one day I'm going to not be able to do the things I was able to do. I'll resort back to babyhood. Who's going to look after me? Those that I looked after throughout my lifetime. It's reciprocity. It's that circle of life. So I think I'm going to quit my speaking here, Charlie, and give somebody else an opportunity. But that's why the importance of Bill C-92. It's an opportunity to exercise our sovereignty. It's 1 foot in a door. You know, and who knows, we could kick that door down and make it in all different areas other than CFS. Miigwech.
We have a open mic, so is there any questions people might have? Again, one of the things I think about is what Glennis's work on Bill C-92 is. It's about family and the structure of the family, and I want to try and protect the family to have that authority to look after their children. If you need help, we could extend some support. We don't want to take over your job of looking after your family, but if you need help, we can, if we need to look at how we could help you, with your family structure. And I think we can certainly look at ways to mentor your family. I had this experience with 2 spiritual leaders mentoring each other. Our uncle we went over to our other uncle in Rolling River Paul Hunting Hawk. He had a Sundance over there, and so we went over there. And I danced at the Sundance over there. And then Uncle would be helping Paul with his singing. He'd take over the drum and he'd sing some songs and help at that event. And Paul is still in charge of that Sundance, but Uncle here, Herman, he went to support that. So it's kind of like supporting what they're doing over there. So when Uncle Herman started to have the dreams about running Sundance, and Paul came over and said, I want to come and help. I'm not going to take over, this what his work, but I can support him, to help him what he wants to accomplish, that work of the Sundance. And I was equating that with that family structures. We have one family here, and then there's another family over here. They both have elders. Like in our family structure, we would have maybe 7 of us are grandparents. Some of them are maybe great-grandparents in our family structure. And then over here, there's another one, another family with the same kind of a structure where they have that. And then maybe there's about 10, 15 family structures. Some of them family structures are kind of apart. They're not quite as fortunate, and so if we see some issues with some of the families there, we could support them somehow. It's like a mentoring of that family. We don't want to go and take over your family and roles of responsibility. We don't want to, do that for you, but we can help you. And that's the same kind of thing that I saw between Paul and Herman. He said, I'm not here to take over. And so, but that families, all those family structures, we have 20 family structures. Each have elders and stuff in there. One of the things that Eddie Smith was telling me about Child and Family was that they, in the old days, when there was a dysfunctional family and an abuse situation there, elders would get together. See, maybe we could get one from my family, and then we could go and be sitting with that family whose elders are, they need support to address an abusive situation or a neglective situation for the abuser and the victim. So, but he said there was Ugichida work there too. The Ugichida is the workers themselves. And Ugichida brings peace and safety to the home. So that's how I understand that. So there's a lot of teachings that we could help out with being supportive And we have lots of people here with good energy. I've seen Jason here always working, and Kirby, and they're learning lots. Teaching Kirby as much of the language that I have. It's so nice for me to be in conversation with some people that are language speakers. We correct each other, and we have we enjoy the language. We have stories, lots of good stories, and if we keep using the language, we have to hear our language to use it. And then how do we use our language? I like the song that was picked this morning because it's one of the songs that it says "Ogutsidao Onishkak," and then that's the song that was sung by the women because the warriors' heart was on the ground and they were losing the battle. And then when they heard the women started to sing that song across the lake or across the river, that's when the men got the energy to keep on fighting. So that's a really high energy song, to stand up and just keep at it. That's one of the things that I went to look for was a bundle that my great-grandfather had when he was a Medewan, had these Medewan ways taken away. And my great-grandfather lost the children, to residential school. And then so he didn't have nobody to help him or to teach, about these ways. So that's what I went to look for. I quit alcohol when I was 25 years old. I liked alcohol, but it got me in trouble. I lost my license twice, and I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. So when we started to work with Uncle, one of the things he said is, they asked him to bless the water, and Uncle said, Nio tapinan o anukiwen, nisho nik, o nisho nik o nio tapinan o anukiwen. Kanchigo nik no when the scene where digagi bishop madsian. He said, I'm going to pick up this work with two arms. He blessed that water. And then he says, I'm not going to look at that life that I once lived, he said, because I used to sleep with that alcohol, and my wife would be in the next room. And that's what he said. To me, that was a very powerful moment of us looking for uncles. Can you teach us? Teach us the songs. We knew he could sing, so we supported him. So that's even the uncles should have access to his traditional ways. He shouldn't ask to have government to tell him to go and, can I go and harvest that tree for my Sundance? I think he should have access to that tree where he knows where it is. And then he's going to go collect that tree, and then that's going to be the tree of life. So we don't need permission. I don't have to ask him permission to use the things that were given to me by the Creator. And that's some of the words of some of our elders. I didn't go to university. I tried to go to university, but I didn't. I liked it more driving around the country and helping out and learning. And that's I just so tuned into the way that they talked about things. You know, I asked him one time, I was going to ask her about this, the bundle that was being placed in front of me. I said, tell me how should I carry this? Can you tell me what not to do? Or can you tell me what to do? You know, so I don't make a mistake. So what he said was, first he took our tobacco and then he gave us smoke here, smoke there, smoke there, smoke there, and smoke there. He said, and what he said was, long time ago, there was lots of Midewan people, nearly Midewan people happening every day. A short time ago, there was hardly anybody came. Now they're coming back. He says, keep working. To me, he entrusted me with my reasoning and teachings, you know, that I would be able to make some choices of how to do a good work. So, and it seems like what he gave me that time, it was what the Creator gave us to walk on this earth. You know, the original man, he didn't want to leave the Creator's side, and that he would pause and he would look back, and keep going, keep going, keep going, and then he was able to reach the earth, and then he walked on this earth. And Richard was talking about the fox this morning, and but to me it was a wolf. The story can be a little bit different, but it sure sounds the same to me. That the Nanabush walked with the wolf, and that's part of our creation story. And that's an event in our history, was the Great Flood. I'm going to wash this earth to make it clean once again. And so they made it flood. And that's what he was saying, you know. Who made the land here? And that was his teacher's question. And Richard said, Nanabush made the land. And I heard that too. you know, he put it on that turtle's back and made that wolf run around and make it bigger and bigger. But he found it in all the great divers went over and looked for that land. Find me some land, he told the great divers. And each of them tried, and they were gone a long time, but they all came back with no earth. And then that's when the muskrat, Azhushk, said, I'll try it. And they all laughed at him. So Nanabush told the other divers, don't laugh at him. So the Azhushk dove down, and he was gone a long time. And he came back. He floats to the top of the water. You know, when a muskrat dies, it floats to the top of the water. And usually their hands are like this, eh? I don't know how. They're in a clenched way. And Nanabush opened his hand, and there was the earth. And Nanabush put that earth on top of the turtle's back and made it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then made it, even generations of wolves made it bigger. Or when the wolf would get old, and then he would get another siblings to keep on running, make it bigger and bigger. That's why we call this place Turtle Island. That's our. There's some more stories, but we can't maybe recite all of them, but a few of them as we go along. And it's about again, it's we the people, sometimes we were given a road to follow, and we have a treaty agreement, almost like a treaty understanding with the nature, not to abuse the nature. And one time I had this dream about the moose. And this is about truth and reconciliation. The moose was mad at the Anishinaabe. And I was wondering why would he be mad? Because I think the nature promised they'll look after Anishinaabe. And so we have the moose who can feed us, and we could use the hide for our moccasins and clothing and okay, and then we can't take that for granted. So we have to honor the moose every so much way. We can't overkill him. We have to make sure we just take enough so that we can be okay. And I think maybe it goes even beyond that. I think if we don't say enough for the moose, for where he lives, maybe that's what he's mad at. He's mad because we don't say enough to protect the lives of the little moose where they live. And so we have to be vigilant of what looks after us. One of the things that happens in our lands is that you know where we live here? We're all surrounded by grain fields, which is one of the things that the colonizers, they wanted to place a place to have make a living or live, so that and that's what they did was they wanted land to settle on. So we agreed to give them, you know, the right to plant and the right to have a way of life in our area. And so they had that when Uncle came off the mountains and saw all these farms, and he said, "Oh, the white people, they're practicing their treaty right." So, one of the things that Uncle Akiwinini, that was his name, Earthman, said about our trail. Our trail comes from maybe the Creator, and then He gave us a way of life. And then here's our road. Here's our institutions of our way of life. Maybe there's an institution of governance. There's an institution of health. There's an institution of education. There's an institution of child and family. There's an institution of hunting. You know, those are all on that one path. All the things that make us who we are as a people, you know, they're all there. And there's some of it is food. How do we get food? So there's an institution, you know, those are education things. It's the same over here. Canada has its institutions of education and health, and so we have this road and then our road. You know, and there's a child and family way of doing things, so there's our road. He said there was a treaty amongst our people, and then to make a treaty, there is a dialogue. We have to have a dialogue. And then you go further down, he said, you know, we could create a new understanding, you know, between our people. Create a new understanding. I don't know if you like that word, but it seems to make sense to me sometimes that yeah, okay, you know, we all have to have water and food, and you know, and so I kind of think about these things, and I said, oh, creating a new understanding. If we're going to have a creation of a new understanding, I have to have lots of dialogue. You know, I wanna be able to have some more. We've been a patient people. We've been kind. These are words that not even. They're not my words. It's what I hear. You know, it's what I feel now. We've been a kind people and a sharing people. And now we have to tell the truth. And we, we have to be strong about it. And we have to say it. And we have to say these things that, people have been, have a livelihood. It's nice to have livelihood, but we have to work as a team when we go hunting. Somebody has to chase out, and somebody has to run after the deer, and then there'll be somebody waiting over there. So that's how it was. And then what do you call him? Philip Martin. That's his story. We used to run after the deer, and he had. I know they're fast at the beginning, but we can catch up to them. They have to rest. Wow. And then so that's what that's how he explained it. We have to have teamwork. There's one of the things that he said too was about who we rely on. He said these are some of his words. Was we lean on the white hair. So that means the ones with wisdom, knowledge keepers. We lean on the knowledge keepers. On our road, on this road, they use a whip. They use a whip over here. So we have to kind of think about it some more. Maybe we're thinking over here. Over here, they're going to whip you. They're going to whip you into shape, threaten you even, with, if you don't look after your children, you're going to whip you with, I don't know, but I think there's some more that we could do in discussion so that there's no, our kids, we have to give support to our families and stuff, So those are some of the things that I would like to offer today. It's by no means the only story. I think there's things that need to be said. The other thing that we do sometimes is we do a tribute to the moose for the things that he offers us. So Uncle showed us a way of carving some legs of the moose. We paint them blue and yellow, legs of the moose. Stick them in the ground like this, and then we put ribbons all around there between the legs and over the, make a really colorful tribute to the moose. And then you get me little canes, and we'll make a little cane, four of them on each side of the moose's tribute. 4 of them on each side. That cane might be about that big. You stick it in the ground, and then there's a little eagle feather at the end of those. And that's our tribute to the moose. And then where the moose lives, maybe there's clear cutting. Maybe there's maybe they drain a water place someplace, and maybe we don't say enough. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Maybe that's why he's mad at us the most. So we need time to do these things. So when we do our ceremonies, that's what we do. Some of them they're Moose clan. Some of them are Hoof clan. The Hoof clans are like moose, deer, elk, buffalo. You know, some of those are the Hoof clan people. So, and then there's other clans, like bird clans. I don't know, they might have fishers or eagles or that kind of a. Then there's a hunter clan. There's hunter clans like the Wabizashi clan, and then the Bijous, and there might be other ones there that we have in the hunter clans. So each have a different role to the functions of the nation. There's two clans there, like the loon and the crane. The loon is these are chieftain clan. I think that's a domestic one, the domestic chief. And then there's a exterior chief, I guess, I don't know, somebody that maybe a spokesperson in other circles where you need to talk with government or something. So there's another chief there from the crane. So those are roles that our clans have. And then there's a triad of the chiefs. There's that fish clan. There's a representative of a turtle in there. And then even the snake clan is in there. Because I think it got scales. I think that's how they said it. There are like the wisdom stargazers, or ones that help make decisions of the nation. You know, that's how they said it. And then the bear clan is the healers. The best healers came from Bear Clan, you know, because they would be medicine or something, because of their knowledge of medicine and healing powers. But each of the clans had medicines, you know, family medicines. And then there's the hunters, the birds, and then the hoof. Did I miss some? Martin. The Martin, yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3, bear, Martin, hoof, and the birds. That's the 7 clans. And each clan has their own pride. You know, each clan has even their own song. Each clan has their own colors. You know, and one of the best greeting that I ever hear from one of my fellow clan member, like a lynx clan with another lynx from another community. He said, "Oh, do them, do them." Oh, it's just like, hey, family. Oh, that would feel nice. That that's a family member. Do them. You could say it here right in our community. Oh, and do them. You know, if they're same clan, do them. And we have songs for them. And we feast every so often, our clans. So we have a group chat for the bijous, you know, when it's our turn to make a feast. Oh, I'll bring rice. Oh, I'll bring salad. You know, those kind of things. So that's our communication. That's our dialogue amongst each other. So you learn. And out of this family structure thing, there's elders in there. And there's the old elders, and and then the older elders has siblings, so they're elders too. And then some of them are good at making things. Some of them are good at orator. Some of them are good at medicines, or some of them are good at hunting. You know, so that's a kind of a family things that we do. What happened? We have two articles that were given to us. Was the outside promises document. And when I read that outside promises document, there's some things in there that weren't in there that I wanted to see in there. I wanted to see expansion clause, but it wasn't in there. I wanted to see equity clause. It wasn't in there. So those are a little bit more that I think about for to share. Well, I thought I wouldn't have all this information, but I'm kind of getting I'm winding myself up. We have to get mad sometimes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just come. So those are. We're just going to keep sharing. You know, maybe till about 3, and then maybe that's going to be how much we can share for today. Oh.
No, bonjour, Mina. I wanna share a little bit. I wanna sit down. I wanna share a little bit about what some people, some nations fought for, and they fought for freedom. William Wallace. I don't know if any of you know who William Wallace is. Anybody know? William Wallace, what's that guy's name there? He made a movie about him, Braveheart. You know who I'm talking about now? Braveheart. That William Wallace, he wrote a book, and I read some of his book. Well, he didn't write the book. It was a book about him. And what he fought for was freedom of Scotland. Freedom from British rule. Now, where did the British people get the idea that they rule everything? And he fought for freedom, and he fought violently. And they won their freedom. and I don't know what year that was. They won their freedom in 1300 or something. And the other one is Mahatma Gandhi. You know who that is, eh? Gandhi. He was Indian. He fought for freedom. Freedom of his 30 million Indians, and as opposed to the 100,000 white people in their country. And they fought non-violently for their freedom. I don't know what kind of a fight we'd have here, you know. We have to fight for that freedom. What they fought for is freedom. Freedom to do whatever they want in their own country. That's what we need to fight for here. We can't fight for health or education or housing. We can't fight for those. All those things fall under the umbrella of freedom. They all fall under the umbrella of freedom. Freedom to do whatever we want. And that's the thing that escapes us, is that we don't know what we're fighting for. Are we fighting for health? No. Are we fighting for shelter, housing? No. We have to fight for freedom. Freedom to do whatever we want in our own country. There should be a casino here of our own, where it's not regulated by the province or Canada. We should have one of those. And instead we have this little thing here, this little Indian Affairs thing here of, what do you call those machines there. Instead we have that, and it's under policy. Why can't we have have the freedom to build our own casino and our own way of doing it without being regulated by the government? Why can't we do that? We can do it, you know. If we get together enough of us get together, we can do it. But we're all okay with what's going on now. We all seem to be all right with the way things are going now. They don't want to fight. Nobody wants to fight anymore. We have that right to do that. Just like when I have the right to go into that courtroom and speak against the Canada's rule over our own people. I'm going to do that. And I don't care who's there with me, I'm going to do it. And because it's time for something like that to happen. Now we can, how would I say that? We can get our education in their schools and that, and in their universities and that. But we can't go along with what they're saying in the universities. About treaties and that. Canada put together what they thought of the treaties, and that's wrong. They made a book. That's wrong. Everything there is wrong. Signing treaties is a very simple thing. It's consultation and consent. Now in 2007, they tried to replace that with the duty to consult and accommodate. And that's not right. The consultation is okay, but for them to accommodate us, that's not right. It's supposed to be to consult and give consent. That's a strong thing right there. That's what makes the treaties legally binding. So we got to stop talking about this crap that we're talking about. We got to start talking about the way we should be talking. About having freedom in our own country. There's two nations that signed treaties. One nation is taking over the other nation. And that's not right. That's not, we didn't agree to that. We never agreed to that. The one nation is bringing their policies and their laws into our canoe. They're bringing their policies and laws into our canoe, which isn't right. They said those two vessels will sail together at the same pace, neither one going to the other side. That's a treaty. That's the agreement. And as long as the sun shines and grass grows and rivers flow, that's clearly long-term agreements. So we got to start talking like that. We got to start talking about the wampum belt. We got to start talking about nationhood. This isn't nationhood here. We think it is, but it isn't. Yeah, we're part of a nation, but you are not strong enough for that. Get into the clan system. You will have all the strength you need. You'll have all the strength you need. You quit fighting for policy dollars and start fighting for what we should be fighting for, and it's our freedom to do whatever we want in our own country. Miigwech.
What time do we have? Maybe you want to present yourself, or again, yeah, keep going a little bit.
We got 7 minutes.
Okay.
I'll say yes to that. 7 minutes. It was a really good lunch. Definitely worth 7 minutes. Bonjour again. I guess I had lots of thoughts when I was listening and thinking about this. And I actually wanted to mention that I saw on Facebook, my other source of information, Facebook, I saw a friend who was posting because they were watching, and they were talking about the need to make this curriculum right away, all of this. And for me, that's so great. Like, for me, what I'm thinking about is, you know, I know there's a lot of work that has to be done right now. I know that not recognizing the treaty, not honoring the treaty, not honoring who we are as Anishinaabe, and that we have a purpose as Anishinaabe people. We have a purpose in the world. We're here for a reason. You know, we carry our own gifts. We carry our own ways, and that has value. And the devaluing of that has impacted us, all of us. And not just us, but everybody who hasn't had the opportunity to meet us as a nation. You know, and I'm thinking about the way I grew up too. Like, there's so much inspiration that I find in what we are able to maintain and what our ancestors were able to maintain, but they fought so hard. They spent so much time. I've seen it growing up. They spend so many of their hours outside of their job going to go look for this. You know, it was so much work to maintain these threads. And what I want is thinking about the future, I want this to be natural, not to be such hard work to find who we are. That it's easier and easier with every generation that we make that easier to know the fullness of who we are and our relatives and our way of living, our way of maintaining relationships. You know, those are significant and valuable, and they have knowledge that's not only for us. It doesn't only benefit us. That's what we have to share. That is necessary. When Uncle was talking about hearing the two roads teaching, that every peoples has a way, and they're different. And they have purpose, their own purpose. But our way, their way is not our way. And it's only together we're balanced. So I guess I'm thinking about just taking from this, thinking my own self about what are the stories that need to be told. Because I'm still in a position where I still take, my son out of school to be able to sit and listen. When it's winter time, when it's ceremony time, my son doesn't listen very long, but even just that he has that memory, right? He did his first fast. He knows now his clan, it was announced for him. He has his name, and just seeing how much that does for him. So to me, that's who I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about what is my role? What can I do? Without asking for permission from anybody else. For me, I know that we are in relationships of oppression, and that really impacts our thinking, that Indian Act thinking. And I know it impacts my thinking. So I guess I'll share one of the things I used to, when I was in law school, it was hard being in law school because I wasn't, the way that I was raised and what I heard and what I value in the world and about myself and about our family and about our community wasn't there. And I was really, really homesick. And so I'd keep driving all the way to ceremonies. I wasn't regular about going to ceremonies before, but when I moved out on my own and I was just lonesome, then I went every time, and I drove with Gertie Bokaj. She took me to ceremonies, and I remember asking her about my courses, and I said, we're learning all this stuff about, self-determination and self-governance and, like all these different sovereignty and nationhood, and what's the one that fits best for Anishinaabe? And did we lose it, and are we co-opted, and are we signing ourselves out of our own inherent right? And it was really complicated for me and difficult. It seemed like it was impossible to ever be who we were and be who we were meant to be and be who we already are and be who we want to be. It seemed impossible. And she said, you know what? You know what self-governance is to me? I was given the ability to make choices about my road. And those choices may not have been good choices because of the choices that other people made. But I could still choose among the choices that were in front of me. And the way that I made those choices and what I drew upon to make those choices good, that's, to me, be self-determination. that's who we are, because we can use our own drawback. And for me, it's my family and it's my community, it's the elders and the people that I admire and inspire me. Just picking up those little words, like those words carried me through years. And I have that way with everybody that I've sat with. I have words like that that carry me through. And so I think that's really important. I know we're recording this, and I know we want to write something down, but it's the love and the relationships and the time that we spent together that have created the best of who I am. You know, what I'm most proud about myself comes from that. Miigwech, ni kind of get a.
Close it down now. They get Jason to sing a closing song.
Anybody else need to echo something? Any final thoughts for today, or wait for tomorrow, or good enough for now?
All right, on behalf of the organizers here today, I would like to thank all our speakers who shared with us today, and for everyone else who sat and listened, and to the ones online watching, I say a big miigwech to you as well. We'll be back here tomorrow again at 10 o'clock till around the same time here, 3:02. But we're going to close things off here now with a closing song from my brother Jason over here. Again, thank you, Jason. And we'll see you guys all back here tomorrow at 10.